Well, hello everybody. If you're listening to this, Readout Productions has reached 1,000 subscribers.
Woo!
Oh, you're gonna give a fast clap?
I'm gonna give a fast clap. I'm excited.
Fast clap. Okay, so I'm currently recording this. It's early August 2022. Hopefully, it's not too far in the future that this is being released. Hey, maybe this is 10 years later. Hey, maybe this will never be released. Maybe we never reached. But in all honesty, guys, I do appreciate the subscriptions. I do this as a side thing. There's some things about local history I love talking about that I'm not able to talk to at my day job. So I like posting it here on YouTube, side things, cool little details about history to get into. Alright, I've said enough history. So what are we exactly doing? So, if you go to the YouTube stats, like I do, and try to see, hey, who's watching my videos? I typically notice it's an older crowd, and I do appreciate that. I do reach out to an older crowd. I reach out to any crowds, honestly. But I do notice the crowd is typically older. People don't want to get to know about local details, local history, in the Lower Highlands of Pennsylvania. So what did I decide to do for our 1,000 subscriber special? Well, I decided to bring a friend of mine, and we're going to read a borderline fanfic isekai involving John Brown.
I'm sorry.
Now, if YouTube stats is true, and that most of our crowd is above the age of 50, you're probably asking yourself, what exactly is an isekai? Well, let me tell you, folks. An isekai involves a character being transported to another dimension, another world, and then proceeds to be your typical fantasy. No, I'm not joking. It's basically your typical fantasy with the simple twist that this character is from our world and superimposed on their world. By the way, I am joined by a humble collector who we also refer to as Connor. I am Readout Productions, who I will refer to myself as Spencer. The reason I'm telling this is, well, we normally try to speak to ourselves in our YouTube channels, but, well, we have drank quite a bit of alcohol on this evening.
May have been not 3 bars involved this evening and since this afternoon. In the lovely downtown Gettysburg area.
Yes, we are actually recording this in Gettysburg, believe it or not. We had the idea at the second bar, so we weren't completely wasted at this point. We had the idea at the second bar that we might start a monthly podcast. And we'd like to talk about various things we're into, history, shows we watch, movies. It's not necessarily for the views, just for the joke that we're just us historians who love talking about in detail, being really authentic about history, just ranting about random stuff. Anyways, we decided to do a test of a podcast idea, and this is what the result of this is. So this is part 1,000 subscribers celebration for Readout Productions, part demo for a possible podcast between Readout Productions and Humble Collector. And, well, what we have tonight, ladies and gentlemen,
it's special.
It's very special.
Yeah.
It is indeed. So, to let you know, maybe we'll put this if we do the official podcast. What are we drinking to this?
We're drinking some Innocent Gun original Scottish golden beer, purchased from a lovely beer store in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. And it is a Scottish import. It is very good, actually. I have had their rum cask ale previously. But yeah, this is pretty solid, honestly. Very light, very easy to drink.
Yes, very light. I will agree to that.
Yeah.
Connor, humble collector over here, he is more of our alcohol expert on beers and other spirits, where I'm the guy that's dragged along for the ride.
Yeah,
so
I've been to a bar or two in my day.
Yeah, he tells me what to drink. Drink this, don't drink that, you will die. Drink this, you might still die, but you'll have a fun time beforehand.
Yeah.
So, live from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, in our hotel room, where we're about to most likely annoy all of the guests. Good news is we're in kind of like an isolated building from the main hotel.
Yeah,
so
they put us in the corner.
Yeah, they put us in the corner. They told us, think of what you're about to do. Well, we thought it'd be a good idea. So, I'd love for you, Humble Collector, to tell us, what is the title of tonight's reading?
So, the title of tonight's reading, or at least the post that originally kicked all this off, is titled, "That Time I Got Sent to Another World After I Was Executed. Now I Have to Fight Generic Protagonists and Their Slave Harems to Abolish Slavery." Which I feel like needs an explanation all of its
Give the actual title.
So the actual title of this isekai is His Soul is Marching On, or the John Brown Isekai. Now, can we talk about the poster or the image?
First, Homo Collector here is the one that introduced it to me. He introduced it to me on the ride here to Gettysburg today. So explain how you came across this.
So, as you know, Reddit will, if you're familiar with Reddit, which is the front page of the internet, it's full of different communities, posts, things like that. Occasionally, they will recommend subreddits to you based on your interests. Now, my Reddit is a cesspit of history and dank memes, and for some reason, I was recommended the r/isekai titles subreddit, and the top trending post happened to be this isekai about John Brown. And knowing Readout Productions like I do, I thought that sounded absolutely fantastic, and I had to tell him about it. But yeah, so I guess should we talk about what isekai is in more detail?
So,
for those who aren't aware,
let's give more of an allegory to. Think of a movie, a Western movie.
A Western movie that's a good allegory to isekai. Well, I can think of a Western book that's maybe a good allegory.
That works.
Okay. Gulliver's Travels is technically kind of sort of an isekai, with a caveat. So, in Gulliver's Travels, our protagonist, whose name escapes me, even though I've read that book like 3 times, he, throughout his voyages, is stranded in different places and essentially has to rely on his English wit to survive amongst the Lilliputians in the first journey, the Giants in the second journey, whose name escapes me. He goes out east in the third journey, and the fourth journey he's literally just living amongst horse people. Now, in these environments, he is forced to survive, basically learn how to survive in this different culture, but also, use what he knows from being an Englishman to help him in that sense. And that's kind of sort of an isekai, because basically, as Readout had said earlier on, in an isekai, it's somebody from our world generally being transported to another world. It's apparently very prominent in Japanese folklore, from what I've been told, very popular in a lot of Japanese stories. A more modern Western equivalent would probably be the John Carter of Mars series by Edgar Rice Burroughs, I believe, is
Wizard
the
of
author.
Oz would be a good.
Wizard of Oz would also be a good isekai, definitely. You have
call it an isekai.
Well, yeah, because Dorothy's from Kansas.
Look, I'm at this point in the night, folks, where that sounds normal.
It really didn't sound that weird. I liked it. But yeah, no, Wizard of Oz could definitely be an isekai. Trying to think, Avatar could kind of be an isekai, like the blue people Avatar.
Yeah, because you're having somebody be transplanted into another society.
Right. And so that's kind of the whole point, is essentially, it's a really interesting storytelling device, because you get the chance to view this culture through a somewhat familiar lens, but at the same time, you'll also get to see it for all of its weirdness and its glory in certain ways. Very popular in the anime, manga, Japanese popular media kind of scene. Some of my favorite series of all time are isekai, but that's a story for a different day.
Rising of the Shield Hero, ladies and gentlemen. And for those in the crowd that know what Rising of the Shield Hero is, when we read a description, you might be knowing some correlations, particularly with the idea of slavery.
Yeah, so this is an interesting isekai in the sense that it's tackling slavery specifically. Now, unfortunately, slavery is a theme that comes up a lot in the Japanese anime manga version of isekai, in that, the worlds have slavery, and a lot of times, even though the protagonists are not necessarily fans of slavery, they still partake in that system, either because they feel like they have to, or because they just want to, because they're a bunch of degenerate assholes. But overall, it's more of like a plot device. It's not necessarily treated as anything. It's treated as bad usually, but not in the sense that it's an awful evil that needs to be defeated, which is where this parody isekai kind of comes in, where we have John Brown.
So, keep in mind, folks, what we're about to read is meant to be for laughs. It is a parody. It says it up front. So to the author that writes this, by no means are we... When we make any jokes here, we're by no means being rude to you or anything. We are enjoying what you read. We are being honest. What you've written, we are enjoying it.
Yes, no, I'm so excited to read this.
And I do hope at the end of it that more people will go read this. So if by some miracle somebody watches this, hopefully this will funnel you over to... Well, he doesn't give the official name. He goes by the name of The Cabbage Preacher. That is the name of the author, The Cabbage Preacher.
I quite like it. It's a callback.
Is that the Last Airbender callback?
Yes, it is. I guarantee you that is an Avatar The Last Airbender callback. If it's not, I'm incredibly...
So The Cabbage Preacher, if you are listening to this, be sure to let us know. Is that a callback to the Avatar The Last Airbender? Because if you are, we're gonna have a digital conversation.
Yeah, mana culture, 100%.
All right, so please read to me I guess you want to say the synopsis of what we're about to get into.
Yeah, so this is the original post from Reddit. It has a link. It says, John Brown goes to another world after being hanged, is disgusted by the sheer amount of slave harems, and goes on a grand campaign to finally finish his sacred mission and abolish slavery in another world. If you're interested in such a story, then I've got some good news. I've already written the first chapters. You can read them now with a link to where we're going to be reading them shortly. There's an edit here added August 11th. Apparently, Cabbage Preacher is from Europe because he used the 1108 instead of the 0811 dating. So this elaborate shitpost I've made is now surpassed in views and followers the main web novel I was writing. Thank you so much for reading and liking my work. If you liked what you read in the John Brown Isekai, then I think you'll also enjoy my main work, The Errant Otherworlder Watanabe. It's another subversive work about a man with protagonist syndrome going to a low fantasy world that lacks cheat skills and harems. You can read it here with another link, and I hope you enjoy it just as you've enjoyed the John Brown Isekai. Currently has 129 upvotes and 27 comments on Reddit. Shall I read some of the comments?
Selected, yes.
Okay. So the top comment here says, I always hate when they have slaves/slave harems, so I welcome any that tries to take it down, Lamau.
Wow, that guy's a little serious.
Yeah, a little serious, yeah. We have another comment here. Unironically better than 90% of the genre, and I haven't even read it, just because of how insane the idea is. I feel like this could also be very lightly educational, both on slavery and John Brown himself, which I'm actually hoping that we're leaning a little bit into the absolute insane man that John Brown actually
so a little
is.
bit on the backgrounds between the two of us. Me, Readout Productions. I am more in the pool of French and Indian War, but also American Civil Wars. Of course, that's why when I see John Brown and Isekai, that catches my interest. Where I'm a collector, Connor over here, he is more geared toward the First and Second World Wars. So I will try to provide as much information as I can. I do not claim to be an expert on any history elements. I just have a passion for it and have done research on certain items, including elements of John Brown. So looking forward to this.
Yeah, that was really the only good comment here, I'm not gonna lie. We have the general Reddit shit show of people arguing about slavery.
Oh god. Okay, let's fast forward. For those that are about to read with us, you may go to royalroad.com. royalroad.com. That is where this story is available. And I shall read to you the introduction.
Should we talk about the photo first?
Oh, we'll get to that.
Okay.
We will get to that. I believe the author did the photo himself.
It's very well done, actually.
So we'll get to that in a moment and probably it'll probably be the whole screen. What am I talking about? This is an audio presentation. So you're going to be looking at for all whatever minutes says it in the time code below. So, they hung him for a traitor, themselves a traitorous crew, but his soul goes marching on. And that is all the singing you get from me.
Oh, we're going to get more later. I feel like.
Are you ready for the butchering of pronunciations? I am so sorry, Cabbage Preacher. The land of Gemenplatz is a land filled with fantastical creatures, adventurers looking to slay them, and heroes looking to distinguish themselves from the adventurers. The most common of these heroes are those who come from Earth, who enjoy a most leisurely time with their cheat skills. It's a perfect world, a utopia of those who wish to become overpowered and get their own power fantasy, where even the most everyman of the everyman can pull themselves by their bootstraps and become a hero.
Should we stop and kind of digest that first paragraph?
Yeah.
So, generally, kind of going back to the isekai trope, in modern isekai, in the anime manga kind of sense, the Eastern literature, generally the person who gets isekai is like a normal dude, usually.
Lower middle class.
Lower middle class.
Mid IQ.
Usually either gets isekai'd by being hit by a truck or by dying from being overworked because Japanese work culture is awful. But generally he gets what's called a cheat skill. Generally he has some kind of ability that makes him far better than anybody else that he encounters. This ranges the gamut depending upon which series you're reading. It could be anything from basically being unable to be killed to, being able to create items out of thin air, whatever. Generally, it makes him overpowered, and essentially no situation he ends up in is any kind of threat. There are exceptions, of course, but those are generally pretty rare.
Yet, underneath this Gamelot's dream is a disgusting truth. To satisfy the needs of heroes who can't find function like a normal human being, which most of them can't, the lucrative Gimmelplot slave trade crushes the dreams and ruins the lives of hundreds every day. These slaves endlessly labor in the harems of so-called heroes at the mansions of the land-owning heroes as rare materials from various magical spells. The world that looks down at them as demi-humans, where the ruling class has no incentive to end this profitable trade, in which their oppressors are overpowered as all hell. What hope is there for the slaves? What hope is there is named John Brown. This time he'll finish what he started. Well, I mean, he did kind of succeed. I mean, he didn't get to live to see it, but he kind of got the ball rolling on the deaths of anywhere from 600,000 to 800,000 Americans. But hey, slavery was abolished.
It was indeed. And yeah, I'm liking this premise that John Brown is almost the underdog here. He doesn't have the anime cheat skills that the average anime protagonist does. I'd like to imagine this is just John Brown with no added bonuses. Like, it's just him. I feel like that's...
Which, to be fair, that's a pretty intimidating individual to take on.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to take John Brown on a fight.
Osawatomie Brown.
But I also like the fact that people he's going up against aren't even from this world. They're mostly people from our world who just suck. It's made very explicit in that opening crawl there.
Yeah. Oh, wait, I didn't finish. This story is meant to be a more fast-paced, silly, short story written while I take a break from my main okay, I think you read this earlier.
Yeah, talking about his other project, which is the Errant Otherworlder Autonomy.
Again, go read that if you have time. If you're interested after listening to us read this chapter, go read that. Honestly, we're probably only going to do the first chapter. If you guys like this, again, comes out if I hit 1,000 subscribers, which maybe never. Yeah, that's okay. If this comes out and you want to hear more, we'd be more than happy to read the second chapter. Maybe we will read the second chapter. It depends on how much space I'm going to take up on this iPad, because I am recording this from a jerry-rigged iPad with a little fur thing over the microphone.
Yeah, and we're already almost 18 minutes in. There are 4 chapters released currently, by the way.
I thought you said 2.
No, there were 2 yesterday when I found this.
Oh, wow.
There are currently 4.
Cabbage Preacher, you work fast.
He does.
I applaud you.
The first chapter is called John Brown's Body Lies Moldering in the Grave, ? All
right. We will see how much we read, but we're definitely will do the first chapter for you. So
how are we splitting this up? How do we all do this?
Honestly, whenever one of us give up.
Okay.
Which could be as simple as a sentence.
Well, before we start recording, I did read the first couple sentences of this, and it made me kind of chuckle.
Well, you are used to these sentences, so
I am.
You take the honors. Chapter 1, folks, did they on Royal Road, are you able to name chapters?
Yes. So this first chapter, if you go back to the table of contents, it is John Brown's Body Lies Moldering in the Grave, ? Currently posted 2 days ago. And yeah, I guess for a little bit of context, I watch a lot of anime. That's been a thing over the past year, so nothing that I'm about to read should faze me, but it's going to.
He's going to begin. I'm going to lay back and take a nice drink of my innocent gun.
Yeah. So, persons convicted of the forcible violation of any female prisoner shall be put to death. Article 41 of the Provisional Constitution and Ordinances of 1858, prepared by John Brown. Today was a beautiful day like any other in Gemmenplatz. The sun was shining, the birds were singing, the cat girls were being enslaved. You know, the usual. A self-declared protagonist and hero, whose name is not important, for he was an ordinary as any other, was walking along a dirt path. Like many protagonists, he had an edgy coat, jet black hair, and a supposedly legendary sword, whose name was stolen from either Norse, Greek, or Japanese mythology. I don't think I also need to mention that he was someone from Earth who had ended up in Gemmenplatz after some sort of accident.
Accident. Let's go with that.
Yeah. Behind our so-called hero was, of course, the first and currently only member of his harem, a demi-human named Ayamide. Ayamide? How should we pronounce this name?
I like that I. I like that having... Yeah, there's an E after.
How about Ayamide?
It's an IDE, so it's I.
Yeah. Like many other unfortunate demi-humans in her situation, she was chained up and under some sort of enslaving magic that prevented her from going against our protagonist. She had been bought for only 15 gold coins, a convenient first companion on the journey of the protagonist. Now, should we talk about gold coins here real quick?
Oh, okay. I wasn't expecting to start here, but sure.
So, the current spot price of gold as of August 11th, 2022. I'm going to Brave here. If I look this up. Assuming these are 1 ounce gold coins. So 15 1 ounce gold coins at the current spot price of gold, which is... This is what I do in any anime I watch. I apologize. Anytime that money is brought up, I have to understand kind of like what...
I gotta get to watch Spice and Wolf. If you want to watch an anime about economy, watch Spice and Wolf. I don't mean that to be rude. I mean that to be serious.
I've heard things about Spice and Wolf. I would watch it.
Love Holo.
And the Wi-Fi in the hotel is not very good, so it's still loading the...
Oh, I'm doing just fine.
So gold's asking price is $17.88 an ounce currently. So if we go to my calculator, $17.88 an ounce times 15 gold coins. So in our world's value, that'd be about $26,820. Now, I will say that historically, gold coins are generally less than an ounce, at least in the pre-modern era. So it's probably less than that, but still, it's a sizable amount of money. Not that that matters for anything that we're about to talk about. That's just me being a business major in college prior to graduation. Man, what luck. I picked an offensive class just to find cheap support, said the protagonist as he thought out loud while walking. There was no one that could hear him anyways. Man, I'm definitely going there again to look for someone stronger and hotter when I get much more of that sweet dosh. This short stack is not cutting it despite her impressive bust. Oh, fuck. Why am I reading this? I wanted J Beauty.
Connor, you do realize... People come to this channel to learn about Washington and his greatest trials and tribulations in the backwoods of Pennsylvania.
I do, and I understand that. It's cool. And instead, we're reading an Isekai where I had to read that sentence.
I am loving this.
It gets worse. I want a Jade Beauty, and no Jade is this dark. There was no one that could hear the internal pleas of help from I Am Mighty either. Suddenly, a loud explosion rang across the generic green plains of northern Gemmenplatz. The protagonist suddenly collapsed, his brain matter scattering across the path. Wow, John Brown hasn't even entered the story and already killed a guy.
He's reminding me about that colonel we were talking about at Barlow's Knoll earlier.
Oh yeah, the colonel who got hit with grape
Has
shot.
the Barlow's Knoll video come out yet?
Probably. I would assume so.
That'll age when we recorded this.
Yeah, so, for context, he got hit with grape shot and his head exploded.
We're talking about a Lieutenant Colonel Fowler, for the record. He was part of the 17th Connecticut. See, I still remember the regiments. I'm not that far gone tonight.
Yeah.
But back to our story.
Yes. I Mighty could feel the spell put on her disappear. She was able to think clearly again. Though seeing someone suddenly die on the ground didn't leave much room for clear thought. She had no time to relax, to celebrate, as whatever had come for her so-called master could be coming for her too. Yet I Mighty couldn't move swiftly due to the chains binding her legs and arm. She saw not a monster, but a monster of a man came out of the bushes surrounding the path. The man that came out of the bush held a wooden club that had smoke coming out of its end, which I Mighty guessed that it was some sort of magic wand. He was old, and not only that, it was clear that years of stress had taken a toll on the man. His white hair and bushy beard were in a state of utter dishevelment. It was clear that he had been living outside of civilization for an extended time. Now we have this lovely black and white picture.
Yes, from the famed image of John Brown with the map of the United States torn in two, with a tornado behind him, mind you. Taken from this, it doesn't seem like we have gunpowder in this universe.
Yes, she seemed very surprised by what appears to be some sort of flintlock, either rifle or pistol.
So we're less in a gunpowder fantasy, which kind of bums me. I was hoping it's going to be more gunpowder fantasy with, rank and file, fire and volleys at each other, and more Army of Darkness.
Yeah, there's no good black powder fantasy.
I'm wondering, will he run out of ammunition?
Question, does John Brown have the know-how to build firearms? Is that a thing?
Well, if he got dropped in with an Oldsmobile, he has his college chemistry books in the back trunk.
We can only hope. I want to see an army of cat girls armed with muskets in Union Blue uniforms, but we're going to get there eventually, I hope. The man signaled I Am Mighty to be quiet with a shh Seeing that he was most likely not aiming to kill her, I Mighty watched as the man walked toward the collapsed protagonist. He checked if his adversary was dead, and seeing that he clearly was, checked his pockets.
Collapse protagonist.
Collapse. His head literally exploded. We're just going to say he collapsed. Checked his pockets before he found a key. Come on, young lady, let's get these off.
No, you got to do the Ethan Hawke.
I haven't seen this. I haven't seen the short.
Okay,
series.
so Humble Collector has yet to see Good Lord Bird. I'm not saying I'm going to do an Ethan Hawke impression. I'm just saying got to do your
All right.
Ethan Hawke.
Well, I think this is a good time to.
You're
throw over to you for the voice because I can kind of mimic
doing
that.
John Brown. I am honored to take this role. I hope it's Oscar nominated.
It will be.
Come on, young lady. Let's get these off. Wow, I am done tonight. Said the man as he pointed at the chains. Are we going with Iomida? Or Iomide?
Iomide. I like Iomide.
I like that.
Yeah.
Folks, do you realize how far into the debauchery I am tonight? Iomide extended her arms toward him as he unlocked the chains, fully freeing her from the grasp of the living impaired protagonist. Mister, what is your name? Asked Iomide. She regained control of her limbs, randomly moving her numb arms and legs confirmed they were still working. Thank you for saving me from that vile wordling earthling. My name is John Brown, young lady. What is yours? Said the old man. He handed his coat over to her. Wear this. You have to protect your decency as a young woman. My decency? What the hell is this old man talking about? Thought Iomide, and she wore the coat to protect herself from the cold. The protagonist had left her tattered robes that didn't total to any sort of protection. I'm Iomide, mister. Then, Miss Iomide, you're now a free woman, just as the Lord has intended, as said the old man. He then turned back to enter the bushes again. Wait a second, I thought you were highwaymen or something, exclaimed Iomide, observing John Brown attempt to leave the scene. If you're not looking for loot, then why are you shooting someone in the road and then leaving their corpse intact? Well, you see, this is Osawatomie Brown, lady. This is the man who will do things to people who decide to hold people in bondage. Now, this is not a quote, of course, from the story. I'm just rambling. Let me get back to the text before I go off.
I would like to point out, I like the image of the fact that John Brown has not thought this through, and he's just going to keep sitting in the bushes by this roadside, shooting random slave owners as they come through.
This.
Yeah, this is just what John Brown does.
How long has he been in this world? I'm sure they'll get into it, but I want to find out.
We saw his gunpowder, so it can't be that long.
And also, is there religion in this world? Because if there's not religion, oh boy.
the good Lord
Iomide is in for a whirlwind of trouble.
Yeah.
Right. I've not prepared for this moment. I expected you to run out of fear long ago, young lady, replied John Brown, and he continued with a voice full of fervor. But if you're asking my mission, then it is a sacred mission given to me by the Lord. The Lord? So, you're just a hired assassin of some nobleman, then? Asked Iomide, shrugging. Guess I just got lucky, then, that this assassin seemed to be an honorable sort. If I was, then I wouldn't have revealed my mission and leave witnesses behind, would I? Replied John. No, I mean the Lord. The one that is higher above any other, incomparable to any mortal man. The Lord? So the Emperor himself, then, exclaimed Iomide in shock. I'm facing a high-profile assassin here. Maybe I should just stop interrogating him, lest he decides to exterminate me from being a witness. I blurted John Brown as he heaved a deep sigh. Okay, I have a sacred mission I have to fulfill for someone that is non-mortal and is all-powerful. I do not have any masters or lords that are in human form. Do you understand me, young lady? Yes, I think, Iomide replied. She gave up trying to understand who was commanding this man. Then what is your mission, Mr. Brown? Why, I join you whatever it is. If it is your own vile... Wow, I am gone tonight. Humble Collector, tell me how to pronounce that word.
Hold on, I gotta figure out where we're at.
Abolition. Wow. Well, folks, I'm not even at the end of the Innocent Gun. Wow. I'm done.
Yeah, if it is of your own volition, then yes, you may join," said John Brown. He headed for the bushes again. "Follow me, young lady. I shall tell you of my mission while we head for the headquarters."
Wait. So this is implying that he's been here for a little while if he has a headquarters.
Well, his headquarters may very well just be a cave. We don't know. He may be mujahideen this at the moment.
Or he can be there is a Brown in this universe, because I mean he may be one of his dozen or so sons he had. You've seen the list of how many sons, many
did
children.
any of them die before John Brown did? Besides dying as children of the disease? Okay.
Yes, killed in his holy war against slavery.
See, I know very little about John Brown. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah, Brown's children were kind of thrown into his provincial army. You may proceed.
Okay. Since she would probably be enslaved again by manhunters if she went back to civilization, Mighty decided that following Mr. Brown would be a much better idea. She followed John Brown, heading for the forest, slowly marching on past a myriad of trees.
I saw what you did there. Marching on.
Yeah.
Slowly marching on.
John Brown continued walking while he began relating his story to Mighty. "Young lady, do you know about the United States of America?" asked John Brown, reaching a spot where no one on the path could hear them while talking. "No, I've never heard of any United States or an America," replied Mighty. "Then my suspicions are correct," said John Brown. "The Lord has granted me another chance to complete my mission after I failed and was executed by those traitors to the Union."
Wait. Hold on. So, how is this a second chance if you're not in the United States?
Well, I guess he's been here for a while. He at least has a headquarters of some kind, even if it's just a cave. We don't know yet. But I'm assuming he's thinking, wow, God must have created multiple worlds, which fair enough. It's plausible enough. And he has granted me a chance to complete my mission on a second world after failing in the first one.
Okay, so what you're telling me is Brown believes in the multiverse.
Yes.
He believes that there are multiple Spider-Man.
I don't think he knows what a Spider-Man is. But if he did, he would think there are multiple. So here's the thing. I don't know if necessarily John Brown believes that he's in a completely separate dimension or if he's been transported to literally another world in our universe. We don't know enough yet. We really can't. We're too early on to really make assumptions about such things.
All right. Where do we leave off? I'll pick up.
Then my suspicions are correct. Oh, no. It would be executed.
Okay, I am Mighty speaking, right?
Yes, correct.
Executed? You look very much alive, too, said Mighty before she realized where this man came from. He must be from that fabled Earth place where all those heroes come from. Though, he does look a whole lot older than most of them. Plus, unlike other Earthlings, he's not a massive prick. Depending on who you are.
Well, she doesn't know him very well yet, so...
Yeah, depends on who you are. I've heard the same thing. I clearly remember riding my coffin to the gallows and the noose tightening around my neck. Yet divine providence works in mysterious ways, young lady. And by a miracle of Lord, I have survived to arrive in this foreign place, continued John Brown. So, what was this mission you ended with your execution? Asked Mighty. Oh boy, let me tell you, Mighty, what you missed out in a certain place in what we call West Virginia today. Again, not part of the text. Now we are to the text. Mine was and is a sacred obligation to fight against a vile institution, thing that profanes the word of the Lord and the laws of the Union, said John Brown as he paused to jump over a toppled log. He waited for Mighty to jump over as well before continuing his excited voice that showed great fervor. Nice on him. That institution is that of slavery, which throughout its entire existence has been none other than the most barbarous, unprovoked, and unjustifiable war on portions of citizens against another portion, the only condition of which are perpetual imprisonment and hopeless servitude, or absolute extermination. He surprisingly has a lot of big words for someone such as a wild appearance, thought Ayamaiti. So you're planning on fighting slavery by yourself? Well, Ayamaiti, he did have about a dozen. Give him some credit. He had about a dozen.
Well, had is the operative word here, isn't it?
Yes, several were killed in those fateful days in October of 1859, which, if you want to learn more about, you can watch the animated battle map, Construction Paper Battlefield, episode...
Oh, yeah, you did do a Construction
remember.
Paper Battlefield. I completely forgot.
Oh, you folks think tonight I think I was going to promote about that. Yes, you can watch an animated battle map of the raid on Harper's Ferry and learn what happened to his provincial army. Well, I don't think this is much of a spoiler, but it didn't end too well. Well, he already told you. He got hanged from the gallows.
Yeah, so you can imagine it failed miserably. It was really bad. Right, where were we at?
He surprisingly has a lot of big words for someone with such a wild appearance, thought Ayamaiti. So you're planning on fighting slavery by yourself? If I have to do... But I'd prefer not to, replied John Brown. We're here. And there is a photo of a Catherine's Cave Tenry, which I think has no real involvement with John Brown, but
no, initially
cool image.
It looks like a sea cave, which I'm curious about. Catherine's Cave Tenby, as the resident nerd who pulls up the internet anytime anything interesting happens. Catherine Cave.
So for those that maybe not be reading but are listening along to us, if you're reading it, Cabbage Preacher has actually inserted images. So we talked about the John Brown one, and now there's one of a cave, like a natural bridge cave. It's not the natural bridge, but it is a natural bridge.
So apparently this is a cavern in St. Catherine's Island in Tenby. Which, again, the Wi-Fi in this hotel is a tad slow. But let me... And St. Catherine's Island is a small island in Pembrokeshire, Wales.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yep, so that is a Welsh...
Oh, good. We're not the only noisy people in the hotel tonight. I feel good now. Now we can really shout.
Yes.
There's people walking past the hallway. I think they just came back from a ghost tour.
Probably. It's about that time.
It's about that time. Brain cells are gone.
Yep.
Alright, so Brown is leading Ayamaiti into a cave, and I'm assuming Ayamaiti is the cat girl that's on the cover.
I would assume so. Based off the description that we got in the beginning, it makes sense.
Shocked there hasn't been a mention of that yet, or he hasn't reacted awkwardly. Like, why do you have fur?
Well, again, it seems like John Brown has been here for a hot minute, so he might have already seen.
Which is pretty cool. So I'm kind of wondering, does he have a provincial army with him?
It doesn't seem like it, at least.
But he's been here long enough to have a headquarters.
True, but I could call my house a headquarters, and it's not exactly the Ritz-Carlton. So, I don't know. But I hope so. It'd be interesting if you already had a nice group of diverse and exciting characters for us to meet.
Oh, by the way, it's your court, buddy.
Oh, okay. So, John Brown had led Ayamaiti to the entrance of a small cave that was hidden in the forest. Excuse me if it's a bit cluttered. I've been busy the past few days, said John Brown. He parted some vines covering the entrance and entered the shallow cave, with Ayamaiti following suit. Inside the cave was a disorderly stash of looted weapons and armor in the corner, ashes left over from a fire in the center, and some items of food piled up in another corner. A horrible smell permeated throughout the cave due to some leather that was being tanned in the cave. It was a dank, dark, and uncomfortable cave, but to Ayamaiti it was much better to it being led around by a so-called hero. Have something and sit down if you'd like, young lady, said John Brown, pointing at a corner with food items. You should be able to find something fresh. Ayamaiti spent a few minutes scrounging through the items of food, most of them being stale, finally finding some fresh apples that seemed edible. She sat down on the cold, hard floor and began munching on the fruit that seemed like a fruit of paradise to her. So, young lady, you say you want to help me in my mission, began John Brown while he talked while gathering some timber stored in the cave to start a fire. What can you contribute to the cause? In my home village, I was trained in support magic and enchantments, replied Ayamaiti, taking another bite out of the apple. So, I feel like we have a tangent here again because of your older audience. So support magic is generally like healing and basically boosting the power of other people, making people stronger, tougher, whatever. It's a very common trope in video games as well as isekai, so we'll move on. That was a side note. Magic, said John Brown as he dropped the log in shock and his voice was replaced with that of concern. It's not related to dark magic or anything satanic, is it? No, I don't even know who or what a satanic is, replied I Mighty, seeing the overt reaction of John Brown. I do some healing, buffing, and enhancing of items. It's nothing suspicious, I swear.
Thank the Lord. I was concerned for a second there, said John Brown. He took a deep sigh of relief. Be careful dealing with the occult, young lady. Don't stray too far from the path of the Lord. I will. What's with the reaction? I don't really know what you can do, but I'm hoping that I may get your help with this, said John Brown as he took out a fire starter and a piece of flint. After a few seconds, a fire he created lit up the room and the walls to reveal drawings made of chalk. This, said John as he pointed to the drawings on the wall, is what I've worked on since I arrived here. Looks like a map, sir. And it is one. I have, to the best of my abilities, mapped out locations of entrance. Mansions, plantations, armories. Wherever I'm seen enslaved men, I'm put to writing. He pointed out one location that was much more remote than the others. Yet security is too high for one or two people to raid one of these, except for one. This small mansion seems to lack in guards, and is isolated enough that I can easily cut off their communications. I Mighty watched and listened to John Brown further. Are we on? We're on. Okay, sorry, we dipped out there for a moment. I Mighty watched and listened as John Brown further elaborated on his plan as she finished eating the final apple in the stash. So did John Brown finish his explanation? Now then, young lady, said John Brown, in conclusion of the sentence, mind giving me a hand?
I'd like to point out at the bottom here we have a note from the Cabbage Preacher with a lovely meme, hippity hoppity, people aren't property, which you should put up on screen right now. It's hilarious.
With Brown's face on a frog.
The frog is a meme template. We don't have time to talk about it.
I honestly don't know this one.
You've never seen? Okay.
No, we don't have time to talk about it.
We don't have time. No, when it comes to memes, you gotta have the background to understand them fully.
We have ideas about how we're going to save memes. You're not stealing that idea, folks.
Yes. In this chapter of the John Brown Isekai, some extra historical context. John Brown was an American radical abolitionist that was executed for treason, also being the first person in the U.S. to be executed for treason, after leading a raid on a federal armory, and failing to incite a slave insurrection. Before his famous raid, he also led a militia in Kansas made out of abolitionist volunteers to fight against pro-slavery forces there and turn Kansas into a free state, which means a state where slavery was banned. In his actions, he was heavily religiously motivated, thinking that he had a sacred obligation to end slavery, believing that all men were created equal, hence opposing an institution that ran on men not being considered equal. He advocated for violence against pro-slavery forces, eventually culminating in him raiding an armory in Virginia so that he could acquire equipment and rally slaves for a nationwide slave revolt. He was severely outnumbered, only having a party of 22 men, and he failed to rally any slaves as the U.S. Marines and local militia apprehended him.
That's the Harper's Ferry raid, by the way.
Yes. While the raid might have failed, it instilled fear in the Southern slave owners who feared men following the example of John Brown, increasing in number. This eventually culminated in the Southern states seceding and the American Civil War, ending in slavery being abolished in the U.S. with the Emancipation Proclamation. In a very roundabout way, John Brown was successful in his raid, even if it cost him his life. John Brown, waiting for his execution, could guess that his death would ignite a spark, and wrote the following in a letter to his brother. I am gaining in health slowly, and am quite cheerful in view of my approaching end, being fully persuaded that I am worth inconceivably more to hang than any other purpose.
And that is where Chapter 1 officially ends. So, chatter time.
I quite liked it, honestly.
Honestly, yeah, there was a lot more than I was expecting. Like, I was expecting a shitpost more than anything else. But it's clear that this is a shitpost with heart.
Yes, and those are the best kind of shitposts. When they have heart, they have a lot of thought put into them. So, we already have a good plot hook right here. Is that John Brown is like, I ain't done with my mission yet, bitch. I'm gonna end slavery here in this world, Apparently, it's going to be him and Mighty starting off here. I'm assuming that she is the cat girl that we see in the image here.
Which is why I'm surprised why he ain't asking, why do you have fur, young lady?
I guess he's been around, again, in this world long. That's the only explanation I have. Or maybe he just didn't notice the cat ears, because, let's be real here, John Brown seems a tiny bit oblivious.
Hey, if this is Ethan Hawke's John Brown, he went through a whole show without, initially not realizing that the girl that was following him was actually a boy, but then later on at the final episode admits, oh yeah, I knew it all along.
He's just trolling. However, I do quite like this pseudo-Union Army uniform that she's wearing. I hope that we see that come about.
More of that, please.
Yeah. I also like that her staff, because again, she's a mage, we found out from this. It has a bayonet on it, which I'm quite...
Is that the sword of P.T. Beauregard that Antache has been using?
Yes.
Well,
no, because that's a Confederate sword.
Oh, yeah.
That's a pro-slavery
Well, I meant
sword.
with the magical. Maybe think
it's definitely a magic sword. I'm sure it's a magic sword. She has this banner here with some generic Isekai writing across the top and a ball and chain. Looks vaguely like an ISIS flag, but we're not going to talk about that.
We're not going to talk about that.
Yeah. But yeah, overall though, no, I'm very intrigued by this.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it's early enough. We could probably read a second chapter.
We're going to do a second chapter, folks. But first,
I need a break first.
We're going to take a break.
Yeah.
We're going to process what we have read. We are at past 45 minutes.
We are, and it's only a little after 10:30, so there's plenty of time left to.
So guess what, folks? If this is a 1,000 subscriber special, you are getting a 2-part 1,000 subscriber special.
And 2 parts is better than 1.
Yes. Again, this is all in the random possibility that I end up with 1,000 subscribers.
You will.
These might all be locked in a vault in the catacombs of Paris. Paris has the catacombs, right?
Yeah. So you're dropping your thumb drive with this episode down into the Paris catacombs.
Yes.
When are you going to Paris to do this? Because I'd like to join you for that.
I'm working on that.
You're working on that?
Or we're gonna be using one of them gliders we learned about at the World War II experience in Gettysburg,
which was an excellent museum, by the way. If we're gonna tangent into that, I'm down. Full of excellent World War II vehicles. There's some nice home front items right there on the front when you go in. The vehicles themselves are amazing. What was that? Do you remember the name of that vehicle in the back that it was essentially a mobile repair shop?
Basically, I don't know the technical term, but yes, It's this giant repair shop. I was about expecting Crapshoot from Kelly's Heroes to walk out.
Yeah. Now, it was... You mean Crap Game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Buddy, it's 10:30 at night.
I mean, I'm usually up till 11.
And we're going to be here for an hour, so...
Yeah.
Give me some leeway.
That to be fair, though, Kelly's Heroes is my favorite movie of all time.
Sorry, Don Rickles.
But
sorry, I gave you the wrong name.
The crazy thing is, they said that they bought that out of an old Danish armory that apparently had just been sitting in since World War II.
Crazy.
And they said when they opened it up, like all the racks in there and like the shop area were still full of equipment from the 40s. Like nothing had been touched since it was put on essentially mothballs. It was amazing. Never seen or heard of one, and glad that I saw it because it was really cool. There was a lot of really cool stuff there.
Yeah, it's cool. So that's our shout out. This is our not sponsor. They are not sponsoring us, but we're going to sponsor them. And somebody's hitting our door for some reason, but we're not going to talk about that. Is the World War II American Experience. They're about 2 miles to the west of Gettysburg just off of the Mummasburg Road. Highly recommend going to see it. I think they call it Crooked Creek Road now, but if those that know the Battle of Gettysburg, it's the Mummasburg Road. All right, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for getting us to 1,000 subscribers. Please go to A Humble Collector. If you have any interest in World War II history and want to learn more, he collects World War II and World War I artifacts. Be sure to go to his channel. Please get him to 1,000 subscribers so maybe we can do a weird 1,000 subscriber special like this for him.
What are we going to do for that?
I have no clue. We will see you in part 2. Goodbye.